in this video, we're going to cover some honest career confessions from myself and a few other people when it comes to working in the corporate environment. I've worked, if you're new to the channel, I've worked for over 10 years in the finance industry at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, HSBC, and other investment banks. And this clip right here is a very typical representation of what it's like to work in the corporate environment. And it's a reality of it rather than this sugar-coated version you're typically sold. So let's have a look.
Hot mom and a mini dress. Fatty boss said no pants. Stanley Cub. Gender pay gap, bring it back. Gender pay gap, bring it back. Gender pay gap, bring it back. It's giving millennial core. Women should go back to the kitchen. Women should go back to the kitchen. Women should go back to the kitchen. Cringe impossible. Try not to cringe impossible. Try not to cringe impossible. Make it stop, hate this. Make it stop, hate this. Make it stop, hate this.
So I'll just let it replay, right? Now, this is a very accurate representation of what it's like to be in the corporate environment. You technically are trying to work hard as a man and do a good job, and you end up being stuck in this environment where you've got two groups. I'm not saying it's always like this. I'm saying just as a general rule, you have a lot of men who go to work, and then women who go to work to be the center of attention. And there is an acronym for this: affluent, white, female, liberal. Not saying it's always them, but a lot of the time it is this demographic on your screen right now. They go to work and they do some work, but a lot of it is just for show. A lot of it is just like chit-chatting around the office, turning the work into a social environment. Sometimes they could be, to use the phrase from J.D. Vance, the VP for Trump, the childless cat ladies. You have to deal with childless cat ladies who might infantilize the co-workers and treat their co-workers like they're a family and try to treat them like they're kind of surrogate kids. So this is what I mean. You have to be around this type of personality, which is quite frustrating if you are a man or someone who studied and worked hard to do well at university and get involved in a top company, and then all of a sudden you have to deal with all these type of women, and you have to question, well, how did me and her end up in the same position? And in many cases she's making more money than me, and she's one of the manager's favorites because she plays along with this office corporate character rather than being a productive member of the team. And a lot of these people, this demographic, they don't tend to work much. They have a lot of men who are beta orbiters, or men who, not this guy and not me, but men who would just basically help them pick up the slack and do a lot of their work, just in exchange for being in the friend zone with them, going on long coffee meetings and chatting with them and basically being like their work husband. These women have 5 different work husbands who do a lot of their work. And this shows a lot of what's wrong with the corporate environment. It's not focused on style. It's not focused on substance. It's focused on style, right? Because you could have, like I say, a man who goes to work who might not look like the typical corporate guy, but he gets the work done. But if a woman is playing this type of character, that's what's more important in the corporate environment. It's more about the appearance of professionalism rather than being productive. And that's a reoccurring theme within this corporate environment nowadays. Now, men have to tolerate this. Now, I've dealt with instances where, for example, I would have to be working quite a lot. And if I'm being serious and getting my work done, people say, oh, you're being too serious. You have to lighten up. You get judged for being focused on your work when you're getting paid to work. You get judged for not being social enough. You get judged for not pandering to these women enough. You get judged for not playing along with their pointless cringe behavior, right? Because if you go to work, you're not pandering to people enough. You get judged for actually working because you're not being social. I don't want to socialize with people like the type of woman you're seeing on your screen right now. I don't want to socialize with them. I don't want to know them. I'd rather not talk to them. But if I have to deal with them in a work environment, I'll deal with them to that extent. It's not a type of people I want to socialize with or hang out with. I'll work with them for the sake of it. But this type of desperate attention seeking that has destroyed the work environment and has destroyed the gym environment and a lot of social environments, because everything has to be about making them the center of attention. Like I say, one of the most crazy things is when they're making a lot more money than you and they just got some pointless middle management role where they delegate a lot of the work, and then productive men are kind of overlooked and underpaid compared to them. This is the whole thing about the system gaslighting you. There's so many times the system tells you one thing and the opposite is the truth. This idea that there's a gender pay gap. I've seen so many women who work in corporate environments who do very little work and they're paid 50% more than lots of men who are actually doing productive things in the office. And what you realize is there's no peace in the office. You want to go to work just to get your work done and just be in a quiet, calm environment, but you have to tolerate this. And there's so many social environments like that now, like with the gym, with women using selfie sticks and things like that in the gym and dressing inappropriately. I remember getting a flight recently, a business flight. It was a short flight, but you had the same demographic of women being loud and obnoxious while everyone else was on the flight, an evening flight, trying to be quiet and just get through it. And you had to deal with this type of behavior on the flight. It was a business flight, so there were women like this. And it's just like, can we just get on with our lives without this demographic ruining every social environment? So what we want to do is just focus on a few other funny examples that might help you understand the corporate environment and the reality for what it is. Because I look at this, and this is a stark contrast of the reality of what a man deals with. Of course, these are kind of stereotypes and they're kind of generalizations, but it really does give you a comparison of the reality of a man in the work environment versus a woman. Now, with a woman, it's all about making herself the center of attention, particularly that demographic of woman. I don't want to generalize and say all women, but definitely that type of feminist, liberal type of woman. If you compare it to the average male day here, which is like 3 coffees, no lunch, random wave of sadness at 5 p.m., God made me for more than this, locking in at 3 a.m. So all these things, I like to say, they are exaggerations, they're memes, of course. Don't get too upset about it if you're a woman watching this. This is just like pointing out there is a very stark difference in reality between how men are living their lives and men are dealing with reality versus women. And a lot of people, these type of things get overlooked, like because you're a man, you're toxic or whatever. Men are really dealing with quite a difficult set of circumstances that women just completely don't see, completely avoid because they're given preferential treatment. And if you have men doing whatever, a man's version of that, of what women were doing in that office right there, if you have men doing something like this in a different form, in a way, maybe men joking, it would be considered toxic masculinity, they're avoiding women, it's misogynistic. That's what the narrative would be. And that's what I mean. The work environment has been ruined for men to benefit this demographic. And I mean, are they productive? Or why is the establishment pushing it? Because it wants feminism, because it wants women to focus on their careers and not having children. Do you get what I'm saying? Is it about doubling the workforce and halving the salary of workers? There's clearly some agendas getting pushed here, because if I ran a company, these are the last type of people I would hire. I would hire this black man here or someone who's productive in getting the work done. But this type of childish female behavior is what you have to tolerate in the workplace environment. And if you don't play along with it, you're too serious, you don't know how to socialize with co-workers. So that's what you've got to deal with in this environment. This is a very real honest take about it. And if we look back at this clip, right, you should really think about, these are the average day of a man in a work environment, right? I'm sure many of you watching this can relate to this. And if you can relate to it, leave a comment below and let me know what part of this do you relate to. Because for me, I don't necessarily drink loads of coffee, but there are moments where you do end up questioning your life or having an existential crisis throughout the day, right? You might have your coffee to focus on getting through your boring work that you don't care about. You need some stimulation, some stimulant to get you through that. You might have a random wave of sadness at 5 p.m. because you feel like your life is meaningless. Same thing with this God made me for more than this comment where you see my mouse right now. And then you might have your 3 a.m. late nights where you question, are you wasting your life away? Why should you be doing this every day? And a lot of times I realize for myself, when you're working an office job you don't like, you end up staying up late because you're really questioning, like you're trying to make the most of your free time. And you end up staying up later than you should because you're trying to like live your life in the evening in very limited hours. And you just don't get enough sleep. You kind of feel stressed out. You feel like you're living a meaningless life. And that's what eventually drives you to maybe think about pursuing alternative options of making money and living independent of this sick system that is quite anti-male. So if you're interested in following me on Twitter, you can find me at EconEthan. You can just search EconEthan and you'll find me there. And what I want to go through next is look through some funny corporate confessions from people from this corporate confessions account where people submit their secret corporate confessions. And we're going to go through it in a moment right now. Let's go through some of these examples, right? He mentions, I built a keylogger with Python. Every time I hand my laptop to a coworker, I steal their password. I regularly log into their social media accounts and check their emails. Normies live such underwhelming lives. So I wouldn't recommend this, but this is quite funny to check your co-workers' social media. Of course, you can just search their name on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, things like that. Or you could, in his case, steal their passwords, which again, I wouldn't recommend. But it really shows you how social media can be leveraged to find out the reality of people and the different character they play at office versus the character they play in their personal life. Another important thing is how social media can be used for cancel culture. So if you have the wrong opinion, they can leverage this and use it against you and say you have the wrong opinion, so they're going to cancel you. Another thing is the way people present themselves one way, but they're another way in different environments, as I say. So I wouldn't recommend you waste your life away trying to find out what your coworkers are doing on their social media, but it's good to see how fake people can be and how differently they can portray themselves. Another funny story. I used to work for a small consulting company. I hated the owner and he didn't pay me enough. I was earning the equivalent of 20k USD a year, which of course isn't a good salary. I felt I was worth much more than that, so I started playing video games on PC, on my work PC, and produced a better CAD workstation than my gaming rig would be faster. So this is what I mean. And then the funny part is the second part here, right? So he spent 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. He basically decided to quiet quit one way or another. And you can get away with quiet quitting for a lot of time and not do much work. From 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., he was drinking coffee and flirting with the receptionists. At 9 a.m., he was just doing a few meetings with regulators. 11 to 3 p.m. he was playing video games, which is DOTA, and then 3 to 5 p.m. he's pretending to work because the boss was in the office. Now this is the reality of corporate work, right? You need to find out when do you need to pretend to work, when do you actually need to do work. Work is wasting your time away, so you need to find a way of using work time to waste work time to benefit your own life. No one really has 8 hours of work of day every day, right? Typically you have quiet days, busy days, so you need to make sure you can make the most of your free time during your work hours. Find out how much time you can waste, whether that's talking with colleagues and chit-chatting with them, playing a few games, leaving early, having a long lunch break, things like that. And particularly if you're underpaid and you don't mind quiet quitting or losing your job, you should definitely use a strategy like this because it'll help you make the most of your free time. Now this is a funny story from a contract worker. He works for a few major firms as a contract worker. He had a few years long contract with an inside career man at a company at a major project for 3 years. So he's working as a contract worker for 3 years for one particular company. He was friends with someone who had a permanent job there. They went out for work drinks, they hang out with family, they went out to weddings, and he said that this co-worker was a friend. Co-worker at the company cut his job contract because the department director didn't like me due to me not confirming the company culture. You have to conform to the company culture to succeed. Perceptions matter more than reality. That's why your social skills matter more than your technical skills if you want to progress in a corporate environment. He mentions he got fired from his contract after 3 years due to not fitting in with company culture, because he worried that his personality would impact the manager's chance of promotion. And this is the reality. Everything's a social game. Social ability matters more than your ability to do the work. And perception is reality. If they perceive you a certain way, even if you're productive and doing a good job, they'll be like, oh, the perception around you is bad. We can't really focus on hiring or promoting you over the long term, and that can impact your job chances and your job stability. And also, you can have many instances where other people simply don't like you. You're doing a good job, but people decide, oh, they just don't like your personality. And then you end up losing your job. So these are the type of negative things that can happen. And you should realize here, you're a contract worker or not, you are quite disposable. And that's what this story kind of covers, right? Even if you're doing a good job for 3 years, if he was a contract worker for a company for 3 years, that means he was doing a good job and people really liked what he was doing, right? But then all of a sudden, for a perception thing, because some senior management thought you might not fit the company culture, no real reason. There's never a performance reason there, just some, oh, you're not likable, things like that, and they'll get rid of you. The last example, I work remotely and take a 2-hour lunch break. My manager rarely messages me. When he does, I tell him I just started my lunch. It's foolproof. I go to the gym for the first hour, then eat lunch in the hour afterwards. There's something about getting paid while you're at the gym. It just adds to the pump. Now, if you are working from home, of course, maximize all your free hours to do what you want. Do your chores during work hours, your food shopping, your meal prep, fit in your gym into your work hours. And then the other hours you have free, you can focus on your side hustle, focus on other income sources, live life on your own terms, spend time with family, whatever you want to do. And you should really leverage every single loophole in this system, because it really isn't built in your favor. The system isn't working to help you, to benefit you. So you need to know how to exploit it. Because I showed you, and I started with those examples of those 5 or 6 women, they're leveraging the system to benefit them. So if you as a man or any other employee who's not that demographic of woman want to leverage any loophole, do that. They go to office, they get treated like the center of attention. They're not very productive, but they get paid high salary, they get favorable treatment, they play the social game at work, they climb the political corporate ladder, they get everything they want, right, out of life, out of this society that's really built around pandering for them, and everyone else gets treated like second-class citizens. So don't feel bad about exploiting these type of loopholes here, right? So when you're exploiting these type of loopholes, you're going to the gym in the middle of the day when you're working from home. Like I say, spending other time during work hours doing what you want. That's very good to do. And I've worked at some of these top companies, and trust me, there's plenty of people who are exploiting these loopholes. So you should be doing that too. Now, if you want some specific career advice, some honest career advice, some anti-corporate career advice, none of the usual nonsense you'll get from the corporate world, someone who knows what they're talking about and will help you navigate this tricky, biased, rigged, double standard environment, reach out to me for career advice. There's a link in the description. I'll be happy with speaking with you directly. And there are 2 recommended videos on the screen right now. Let me know in the comments some of your corporate confessions, and I'll see you next time.